Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show, and today is Monday. It is March the 24th, and I want to say welcome to the program. I had one of these revelations before I started going, and I had a show planned out, and I thought we were going to be talking about soda influencers and the danger of idolatry, which is what I've titled this episode. And we're going to get into some of that because I actually do think it still plays into it. But I uncovered something else on accident, and what I really hate is when I'm right about things that I don't want to be right about. What does that even mean? It means there's people that I want to be doing things properly. That means that there are people out there in the space, whether it be a Donald Trump or somebody in that administration. I want them to be doing things in good faith. I want them to be operating above board, and I want them to be telling us the truth and just doing good things for the sake of doing good things and then telling us what those good things are. And then there's the reality of what's actually going on. So unfortunately, we're going to debunk a classic myth, and the myth is going to be the capture of top 10 FBI most wanted fugitives. It's awful. It's awful that this is used to manipulate the American people. There was a time when the FBI put people on there that they thought at some point in time, we're going to get this SOB and we're going to put their name out there, and we hope we do. And then there's what they do with it today. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight about what that thing is because it needs to be done. I don't know. That's just the way it's got to be. We've got to just debunk the narratives where they are. We'll let the chips fall where they may. And if that means that we hurt feelings of people that we really like, we don't really want to hurt their feelings, I can't help it. If people operate honestly, they don't have to worry about that. All right, before we get too deep into the weeds with that, let's talk about a sponsorship. This is a paid sponsorship. It's blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. You'll know why I said paid in a second. Listen up, folks. We're putting you onto something that can change the way that you start your day. I'm obviously rip-roaring this morning, and Blackout Coffee was part of it. It's not just a cup of coffee. It's a wake-up call, that call to rise and grind and push harder and never compromise on what you stand for. That is the way we do it here at the Kyle Seraphin Show. It is not just your average cup of joe. In fact, mine is sitting right here, and it is almost gone. That is 5 of them, I think, going so far. Every bag of Blackout Coffee is roasted with a purpose. It is packed with bold flavor, and it is fueled by the kind of values that built this country, which is grit, determination, a refusal to back down. They don't just make coffee. They're making a statement. You can make that statement at blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. They've stepped up. They've added more folks to be able to get your order to you faster. So when you hit the order now button, it is en route forthwith. Whether you're powering through your daily grind or chasing down big goals or refusing to settle for mediocrity or maybe just the media narrative that's pushed out there, Blackout Coffee's got your back. Don't just drink coffee, drink Blackout. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. Use that coupon code KYLE. Get 20% off your first order. And then whatever it is that you buy that you like, go ahead and get yourself set up with a subscription. That's the way that we do it. Taste the coffee that doesn't just wake you up, it fires you up. You can see we're about to do that. Let's go. I do want to just go. Like, that's how I'm feeling right now. Okay, so we're going to start off with something that my father sent me over the weekend, and it's a reminder to us that crime actually does pay. And evil, more broadly speaking, does actually pay. And doing the wrong thing in this world oftentimes does actually pay. I'm reminded of the gospel passage talking about the temptation of Christ. He goes out into the desert. He's all by himself. He's hungry. He spends 40 days and nights in preparation, right? That's what the desert is, a place of preparation. It was not lost on me that my FBI whistleblower time happened when my wife and I went into the desert and then we were tested. That's the way that I thought. I mean, the number of things that popped out because of the experience that I had. Like many of you over the last probably 5 years, a real strong awakening. You experienced things that you questioned institutions that were in front of you for all time. And you were like, yeah, why Why would I ask if my doctor had my best interest at heart? And then suddenly you went, I wonder if my doctor is actually lying to me. You said the same thing about your government. You're like, I believe in the power of the blue. I think that the police are on our side, right up until the fact that they were shutting down churches and leaving open liquor stores, right? There's a lot of this evil that's out there in the world, and it's very commonplace. And it reminded me that the world is the playground of the devil. The terrestrial world that we live in, it is often dominated by. That's the reason why the devil offers Christ the principalities and says all of the power and dominion on earth is given to me, and I can give it to you if you just worship me. And then you see stories like this, and you know that it's true. This came from my friends over at Catholic Vote, just posted the other day. Watchdog Group claims amidst claims of financial decline, because there's a lot of money that is being pulled away, Planned Parenthood affiliate CEOs still are in the 98th percentile of U.S. wage earners. Crime and evil actually does pay. We can see this in many different experiences of it. You can see that drug lords live in incredible luxury, that the people that we are seeing do bad things often profit in the world. And how often do we see people that do really, really good things? They do not. They experience the opposite of that. You'd say that there's probably no justice here on earth. That's because if you are a Christian, you believe that justice is actually not the domain of what you should be hoping for. You should be living the good life and living for another. This is just a worthwhile reminder that there's some real ugly stuff that continues on. Planned Parenthood affiliates made more money than 98% of other workers in the 2023 fiscal year. It's just a year before the organization received nearly $700 million from taxpayers. The key here is that we paid for a lot of this. Money is fungible, and you can fund it for women's health care, but it still pays for abortion. This is the problem that conservatives and Christians have always had. Those are not one-to-one. There are plenty of people who are sort of conservative-ish and don't actually end up being Christian. They have sort of libertarian principles, and they don't want their money spent on this stuff. According to a group called according to the Social Security Administration, the average raise increase was 5.3% in 2022 for Planned Parenthood CEOs. They have all these different affiliates. The Planned Parenthood Federation of America president, person called Alexis McGill Johnson, earned $904,000 in the 2022-2023 fiscal year, according to the American Life League. That's a lot of money. Most of the CEOs have an average salary of about $320,000, and those went up from 2020 to 2023. In the Biden administration, they actually went up to about $350,000. Some of that is inflation-based. Some of that is really just disgusting to know that you are paying for the demise of, hundreds of thousands of souls a year? There's a lot of evil out there, folks. There really is. And that's one of those good reminders. So if you're not following my friends over there, they don't pay us anymore, but I don't mind because their news is still really good and I still get it all the time. Go to catholicvote.org/loop if you want to get the loop. It is a really good little email reminder. There's all kinds of stuff there in value. And these are not stories that I've seen. Look, I look at ABC, NBC, MSNBC, NPR, Fox. I look at all of the major news sites, CNN. I didn't do CNN this morning for some reason. But when you look at all those sites, you'll see what the story of the day is, what the media narrative looks like. And the folks at Catholic Vote oftentimes cover things that are not within that space, which is kind of nice to see. So just a reminder, if you want to get additional news, broaden your horizons, open up and quote unquote, do your own research. More on that in just a minute, because we've got a good little video clip of people making fun of that instinct. It's not a good one. Speaking of evil, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, other prominent Democrats, security clearances revoked. Remember, Joe Biden agreed with this perspective. He said there's no reason for these people to be getting briefings. There's no reason for them to be holding on to security clearances. One of the important things about security clearances is without a need to know, just because you are clear, just because your clearance is still active, it doesn't mean that you automatically have access to briefings. Right? You don't automatically have access to log into a terminal somewhere and get information. But this is a worthwhile story. It's coming in from CBS. Of course, when you say the words prominent Democrats, you're talking about people that they think are the good guys. President Trump on Friday night, just as we went into the weekend, rescinded the security clearance of former Vice President Kamala Harris, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, other members of the Biden administration, and several prominent Democrats. The move came after Mr. Trump, who already announced last month that he was going to revoke Joe Biden's security clearance. He just continued onward. This Friday memo, he said he was rescinding the clearances of the entire Biden family. Yeah. just in the wake of them saying that they wanted to get back into politics, which is pretty incredible considering they just got out, which is probably because he's 1,000 years old and did really terribly when he tried to go up and speak. Do we really need people that are mentally feeble to be read in on various programs? Now, again, if you don't understand how a security clearance works, it's very simple. In order to get classified material, you have to have a couple of things. One, you have to be doing it, accessing the material in a classified appropriate space. Sometimes that's a SCIF. Sometimes it's that you're just reading it, but you're not sharing it with anyone else. It has to be carried properly. There's all kinds of courier requirements, locking bags and so on. You must be carrying identification with you that shows who you are so that you're not in violation of law or policy. So that's part one. The second thing is you have to have a background check on file, which gives you access to, let's say, secret, top secret, compartmented information, whatever these things are. These are all different subsets. There's really only 3 clearances. Secret and top secret are the ones that most matter. The other one is like a public trust. It's like confidential, I think. That's very low level. And then there's all these different little compartments that you can be read in on. And they might be about energy, and they might be about particular types of technology. They might be about human intelligence and ways that we gather it. There might be something about satellites and so on. So you can be read into various different programs that gather. But the last thing you have to have, and this is the most important, is a need to know. And what I think Donald Trump has identified with these stories is there's no need to know. You're not in public office. You don't have any reason to do reading of classified material. So why are you still cleared? Why are we wasting money? And why would we continue to adjudicate these clearances? Because it actually costs money to go out and do the background checks to maintain them. So wipe them out. It's a good move. It is the right move. Of course, it gets people crying. And when people are crying, they start looking around saying, well, how did we lose? How did we end up with our most prominent stars not having access to the things we want? And I guess that's leading to people asking the question. Democrats are still trying to figure out who's going to lead this party forward. They're just seeing losses left and right. And so the question is Chuck Schumer really the guy? Nancy Pelosi is pretty clearly too old. Chuck Schumer, he's 74. He's very close to my father's age, who's retired. Why is he still in charge? Why is he the guy? So they're starting to ask those questions. And this was posed to Kathy Hochul, who is an upcoming or a mid-level star. She's the governor of New York. She kind of got in on kind of some technicalities. She lost her boss and then was able to run as an incumbent. Kind of interesting. She gives a very non-answer on CNN. The question is Chuck Schumer the guy? Is he the one that you really want? Do you have a lot of faith in the way that he's operating? And less people are saying yes. More and more people are turning to maybe the dumbest combination. It's the furthest left. It gets a lot of popular excitement. It's certainly not the mainstream position in America. So we'll cover that in one sec. But here is the answer about, do we think Chuck Schumer's doing the right thing? And the answer is unions are good and we like to have some things. And I won't answer your question is kind of where that goes.
What did you make? Did you approve of what Senator Schumer decided to do to let that funding bill go through, not let the government shut down? And do you think he's the right person to lead the Democrats in the Senate?
Listen, we have benefited tremendously here in the state of New York of having the influence of the majority leader for the Senate, our home senator. Look at the CHIPS and Science Act. We have Micron with 50,000 jobs coming to upstate New York. He helped get that through the Congress and directed that programming here in New York. The Gateway Tunnel, thousands of good-paying union jobs are being created. What we're doing at the Second Avenue subway. So he has been my partner, and I don't want him to lose that clout. Why do we want someone else in a different state to have that kind of weight in Washington? I say keep him right where he is. He's doing a great job in that respect. And people can debate whether or not that was the right decision. But don't forget who brought us here. The Republicans created this scenario.
Do you think it was the right decision?
They created the chaos. We need to point the finger where it belongs.
Do you think it was the right decision?
Republicans created the chaos. We need to point the fingers where it belongs.
A notable non-answer. I do want to ask you about what the president did with the Department of Education today.
A notable non-answer. And her answer was, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think I'm really proud to do a political, nonsensical answer. Here we go. So this is coming from CBS. It says Congress is going to return on Monday. That's today, after a week-long recess, as the fallout continues from the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's move to help Republicans, right? Just as Thomas Massey said, Schumer helped it pass. So the funding bill, I don't know why it's considered controversial. It seems like they're also buying a bit of spin, because essentially what it was doing is just continuing the funding at levels that were passed under Biden's administration, right? That's what a CR is. It's a continuing resolution with minimal cuts. It's a controversial spending bill that was passed earlier this month to avoid government shutdown. Again, they backed themselves into that corner, and that corner wasn't really a loss. It was kind of a win-win for them. So to frame it otherwise, but once again, if you are looking for something new, if you want to see some change, then you can spin it as a loss. which is what we're seeing on. There's a lot of spin going on here. It doesn't matter whether it's coming from the conservative side, whether it's coming from the FBI side, whether it's coming from people who are trying to talk about sodas being a personal liberty issue. We will definitely touch that because you're absolutely out of your mind if you think that government resources should not come with government strings, which is to say that you and I have to fund other people to have autonomy when they're not autonomous because they're taking our money. In any case, lawmakers left Washington following many weeks of being in session. God forbid. Can you imagine, guys? Can you imagine doing your job for many, many weeks, making almost $200,000 a year, and then not even having any time to not be doing your job? How many of you get a vacation every time you spend many weeks in session? Like they just started in January. It's time for a vacation already. I guess they need spring break. Most of us don't get a spring break as grown-ups, but they do if they are working in the Senate or working in the House. So that's really important. Again, if you want to move something forward, how do you find out who's exciting? You measure it by rallies. That's what they did with Donald Trump. They said he had a lot of people pop up. A lot of people showed up to hear what he had to say. You know who people like to hear talk? I don't know why.
They like to hear Bernie Sanders. He's drawing the record crowds talking about fighting the oligarchy. The oligarchy is obviously the problem.
So, okay, interesting. We're going to fight the oligarchy, and Bernie Sanders, this is a rally, I believe, that was done in Denver. So, left-leaning. I know that Denver is lefty. I know that Colorado, if you go out into the rural areas, it's like everywhere else in the western states. It's pretty conservative, and or it's sort of just leave me the hell alone, people that have land. And they got Bernie Sanders to rile up the crowd for the brilliant actress known as AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was the one who gave the speech. This is what she said, and all people who are listening to this think that this is her push to run for president. I mean, screw it. They're what, 0 for 2 right now? You might as well go 0 for 3. Go for broke with another female, and this one even dimmer than the last one. At least she's prettier than Kamala Harris. This is what she has to say about fighting the oligarchy, a thing that she's actually joined.
Remember, when you are a billionaire, you are the oligarchy. But if you're a millionaire, I am no longer part of the oligarchy because I am a millionaire too.
This guy, like, anyway, here's the brainiac that is AOC.
We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us too. But that means, here's what that means. That means our communities, each and every one of us, choosing and voting for Democrats and elected officials who know how to stand for the working class.
It's amazing. What we need you to do is, in order for us to have more Democrats, you have to vote for more Democrats. In order for us to fight harder, you have to give us more power so that we can do the fight. This is the unfalsifiable premise that if you just gave me more power, I could finally solve that problem that I've never solved. It's the unfalsifiable premise that, listen, communism was never properly tried, right? You just got to give us more authority. Meanwhile, we're very, very, very mad about authoritarians like Donald Trump. Isn't that crazy? Bernie Sanders emerged as the leading voice for voters opposed to President Trump's rapid push to dismantle the federal government. Of course, because when you think the federal government is the solution and it doesn't ever have to actually perform, of course you would come after this. As you guys are saying in our chat over there, this is obviously about class warfare. This is always the same push. How do you divide and conquer people? And maybe that's what I think is most important about what we do here at this program. The biggest thing I want to do is not focus on the shiny objects. I don't want to focus on the AOCs of the world. I don't want to look at that. What I want to see is what is the hand that is moving in the background and what is the overall play. They're getting people whipped up about being mad about Donald Trump, and they think maybe they can unite behind this dimwit TikTok star because they've got younger voters who are going to be excited about her. That's not going to be the most effective thing to be paying attention to. We also need to police our own side so that wins are actually wins. We need to police the side that claims to be conservative, or at least claims to align with conservatives as Republicans, so that they are doing the things and not going to be easily called to the carpet by dimwits like this. Bernie Sanders and his fiery form of economic populism. I mean, he is a populist in so much as people who are dumb follow him.
you could make the same argument that there are some dumb people that follow Donald Trump. They do so blindly. This is the problem with idolatry. If you lift up this 80-something-year-old socialist as being your hero in the same way as you lift up anyone else as being your hero, I assure you, you will eventually be let down. There's zero chance. It doesn't matter whether you think it's Elon Musk. He'll go have a baby outside of wedlock with IVF or whatever the heck he's doing. If you think it's going to be AOC, you're going to find out that her IQ is actually under 120, and she probably shouldn't be in charge of anything. If it's about Donald Trump, you'll find out Donald Trump doesn't agree with you, and he'll say the wrong thing about abortion down in Florida until you straighten him out. Populism moves with the popular crowd, so it's a dangerous place if you decide to do populism and then also turn that person into an idol. That's just the cautionary thing I'm going to say. Doesn't mean you can't root on the winning. You just have to watch out who is championing and stay with principles instead of individual peoples. The peoples will constantly let you down. All right? The media is doing this spin right now. The peoples they've decided to champion are government workers, and so they're highlighting some of the weirdest nonsense, and they're calling on just the most losing pieces of November's election. This is something from MSNBC I saw. The question was, it's about Donald Trump's decision to cut Radio Free Europe. This is the Voice of America. There's actually a name broader. What is it called here? Give me a second. It's called the U.S. Agency for Global Media. This is the one that basically has been mostly shuttered, and they've shut down a bunch of the different programs. This is being run by Carrie Lake, apparently. And this is the question they have. Are we going to cost the world democracy? Whenever we hear that, we have a very strong instinct against what's coming next. It feels like propaganda. By cutting our propaganda arm in a company called Radio Free Europe that the United States pays. And there was a poll over on this article from MSNBC. I love their polls. They're the most fun thing to read. It tells you how far and how hard to the left MSNBC listeners, readers, and watchers are. And this particular poll says, does America have a responsibility to promote democracy across the world? Go ahead and answer in the chat if you guys would. I'm showing you the results. In this case, 90% of the respondents said like very much yes, or all the way to the yes. Of course, my answer is no. America doesn't have any responsibility to anyone else other than America, and certainly not for quote unquote democracy. We're not a democracy, are we? We have kind of this like elitist republic that's put together that's actually supposed to keep a lot of things out of the people's hands because people make terrible decisions like follow AOC, follow Chuck Schumer, follow Bernie Sanders. They make things against their own best interest on the regular. What we have a responsibility to do is protect the Constitution, in theory. And everything else comes second. Since these people that are federal workers can't just do the basics, like keep up with their oath. Should I throw this on the screen here? Yes, there's our nose. There's our responsive chat folks that are pushing that. But of course not. That's not your job. Meanwhile, we act like these people who are going to be endangered because they lose their job. It's our own fault for cutting them loose, and that's why they might have to betray America. We talked about this on Friday with Garrett O'Boyle. Garrett O'Boyle is 30 months without a paycheck. For those of you that have never gone without a paycheck for that long, I want you to consider it. He's simply staying, he's benefiting from money that we raised for him, and he's benefiting from his VA benefits from his time in the military where he was actually injured pretty aggressively. He's got all kinds of different medical issues. None of them are our business. But I think he's like 80% disabled according to the VA. So he gets a check from them. And he's sitting and waiting. That's actually going to come up more relevant because the director of the FBI, the deputy director of the FBI, we have the two people that you folks wanted to see in there. I did as well. 50-50 on the Dan Bongino thing. I think it's an interesting move. I don't feel strongly one way or another. But we wanted to see Cash in the office. One of the reasons is because he could make whole people like Garrett O'Boyle tomorrow. Stroke of a pen. Why is it that guy has gone 30 months without a paycheck and is not an actual threat to the United States? And yet, you get these stories from CBS who are fawning over these people. Federal workers. Their mass firings could pose significant security risks for the U.S., experts warn. And the reason they say that is very, very gross. I read through the article. It's the same one they keep making. What they're saying is that these people, they might not be financially solvent. They've lost their job. And now they can't compete in the labor market. Well, in theory, if these people were so great, if the skills they had were so useful to the American people, you'd actually find a reason to go out there and hire them in private industry, which is what Donald Trump said should happen. He said these people should be made to go out there and compete. But that doesn't mean you get to compete by selling off secrets. It turns out that actually still is a crime. That should land you in prison. Unless you're Hillary Clinton. You shouldn't be able, unless you're Joe Biden, unless you're Hunter Biden, you should be able to go out there and compete for a job. And your security clearance is kind of irrelevant, right? You don't have to work in government. I spent most of my adult life still not being a government worker, even though I spent probably about 10 years combined, a little bit more than 10 years, receiving a government paycheck. I understand that there are other options. I've gone back into the private sector, sitting here right now. My choice wasn't like, well, I worked against the Chinese threat. I should reach out to Chinese media and see if I can sell what I know. And that's a sort of like, that's the statement being made here. These are people that are running cybersecurity firms that are saying, listen, this information that they have that they've had access to because they were part of databases and so on, it's very valuable. Yeah. And so, we need to take care of these federal workers so they don't betray us. That is not what we signed up for when we got involved in this stuff. It's certainly not what I signed up for. I didn't know that that was going to be an option. And it's gross that these people even act like this is part of the story or the calculus, that we have to protect them. God forbid they sell us out. It's called extortion, is it not? We're speaking about databases. This is a great time to talk about it. Our friends over at Patriot Protect. Guys, again, another paid advertisement that happens here on the Kyle Seraphin Show. We're really grateful that they do so. Patriot-protect.com/Kyle. The fact of the matter is government workers who may or may not be trustworthy have had access to your data for a long time. Why we think they're trustworthy? I don't know. They continue to have massive data breaches. Newsweek just reported one in February that put millions of Americans at risk. The data breach included background checks. It also included things like drug test results. They oftentimes have your full number, your full name, your social security number, your home address, your phone numbers, and so on and so forth. All of these things can be exposed. They can be circulating around the dark web. It's far worse than having a password leak. It's a way that a criminal can actually impersonate you. They can take out loans. They can drain your bank account. They can open up lines of credit. They can absolutely cause a nightmare for you. Again, patriot-protect.com/KYLE. If you want a solution to it, the key is not stopping the leak. You're probably not going to be able to do that. A lot of times it's done on government systems. There's nothing you can do there because you don't control it. What you can do is have people like Patriot Protect scan the internet and go looking for this exposed data to remove it from the people search websites, from the scammers that might be targeting you, and even their blackout service, which goes into the dark web trying to find stolen data that's already out there being bought and sold to make you alert of it. Okay, we use it over here at the Seraphin House. Both me and the wife are on it. We have set this thing up. It takes between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on how many addresses and how many different personal identifiers you have to upload. And then they go out there and use the search and destroy protocol to try to collect your personal data from these hundreds of data broker websites, scrape it off the web so you are less findable by the bad guys. That's the goal. So you're going to have to take it in your own. If you guys don't use this service, find something that you use that you can trust. This is the one that we're using right now. So far, positive results, and you'll save 15%. Again, patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Shall we go deeper into this stuff? I've actually got something that talks about getting rid of the federal workforce. And there were these videos. Actually, let's talk about the idiots for one more second. Can we please? The idiots are out there, whether we like it or not. And the reason I'm going to show you this video is because for some reason, Rosie O'Donnell has popped back up again. She moved to Ireland, apparently. She is not someone that I consider a thought leader, but she does apparently think that Elon Musk, who's been going out there looking for fraud and waste and abuse and actual problems. There's some funny little metadata coming out from other cabinet level or from actual cabinet level secretaries that are talking about it. I've got a piece from Howard Lutnick that we're going to play in a second. First, I want to set up the man who owns the internet. And then who is that man? This is Rosie O'Donnell from 2017. She's doing this in February of 2017, screaming about how Donald Trump's time is over. And they use white as an insult, but the white wealthy people are coming to grips with the fact that we are going to resist them. Okay? But how are they going to do it? They're going to do it with the open and democratic flow of information, aka the internet is everywhere and you cannot stop the signal, right? Our Serenity reference for all of my sci-fi buffs. You cannot stop the signal because the internet is free and flowing and information will go where it needs to go. Rosie O'Donnell arguing passionately and sort of goofy on behalf of the internet, which she now believes Elon Musk owns. More on that in a second.
To Donald Trump and his pathetic band of white, privileged, criminal businessmen, I would like to say to him, niet, sir, niet, niet, niet. No, we won't. We've seen what you have done, sir. We have seen your connections with Russia. The game is over. The internet rules. All media is universal. The truth matters, even if our major media companies will not call him a liar. We will.
The internet rules, and it is out there, and so on and so. But apparently, between 2017 and sometime in November, or maybe just before November, maybe in 2024, Elon Musk apparently purchased and decided to run the entirety of the internet. That's an interesting take. Of course, she took it to Irish media. Again, imagine we do this in America too. When you start trotting out voices of goofy people that are not from here, like maybe like a Piers Morgan, right? Maybe you get a Trevor Noah to come in and start talking about American politics. You're not American. You're not from here. Why are you talking about it? Rosie O'Donnell's going to go on, and I guess she's an expert on American politics, or the closest thing that they can get in studio for this Irish media channel. So she's going to be explaining how Elon Musk apparently owns the internet and has it lost. Her sentiment is dramatically changed from 2017, and she actually did make good on her promise to leave. So good on her. Sometimes people say they're going to do something and they do it. I think we should praise her for actually doing the thing she said, which is that if Donald Trump wins, I'm going to leave. She did. Good riddance. But now she's going to pop up on TV. She's not speaking Russian here, so just take it easy. Here she is in Ireland.
A lot of people did vote for him.
Yes.
Do you accept their right to do that and their opinion of him?
Well, I respect their right to do that. I question why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet. So I would hope that would be investigated and that we would see whether or not it was an anomaly or something else that happened on election night in America when Kamala Harris was filling up stadiums with people who supported her, and Donald Trump was not able to do that.
That's the first I've heard that Donald Trump wasn't able to fill up studios or stadiums. And that's also interesting. It's the same argument they're making for Bernie Sanders and AOC being the front runners in the future. Filling up stadiums with people who are dumb and have bad ideas doesn't mean those people are going to turn around and vote the way you want, especially when those stadiums are, let's say, in Houston, and you're bringing on music stars who don't end up actually doing the musical routine that they thought. Some of those people were probably probably voted for Donald Trump simply because they showed up to hear fill in the blank music act and instead got a political lecture for 5 minutes that cost $10 million of donor money. But I do like the idea that she wants to investigate people because now the internet is apparently owned by Elon Musk. I've got these two clips that are discussing who is this person that owns the internet. This is a conversation. Again, this is Howard Lutnick, right? Howard Lutnick. He is the Secretary of Commerce. The first one is him discussing the so-called brilliant idea of the gold card, the Trump card, selling a green card, but at a high premium. You don't have to wait in the line for the cost of $5 million as a way to raise funds in America. In other words, we have this asset, which is called legal permanent residency, and we should monetize it. This is a very business-minded thing to do. I'm kind of on the fence on this. I can see some dangers. I can see some ideas where we might bring in some of the wrong type of people who can afford $5 million. We talked about the CEOs of Planned Parenthood earlier, right? Evil pays. So drug cartels, they might have a representative. They'd like to have a legal permanent resident status, and $5 million is a good reason to do that. How about people that are in predominantly Muslim countries that want to move some sort of terrorist mastermind in? Could they do that too? I'm not saying they're happening. I'm saying that there are some cautionary tales here. But by and large, taking something that has value and getting value out of it, it's not a terrible idea. It's different. Thank God. Let's do some different things because America has been financially, just raided by the globe. So if people want to come here, let's charge them for it. So this is the discussion on that. And then we're going to break into how Elon Musk apparently bought the internet, a man who doesn't even seem to care anything about money. And that's where I want to get down to, because when you start listening to the way that he talks about himself and people talk about him, I don't think it's spin. I think people are flabbergasted to find out that the world's richest man doesn't really care about the thing that he's known for, which is money. That's not what he's most interested in. Okay, again, here's the Commerce Secretary talking about the gold card, the Trump card, if you will.
Speaking of potentially great ideas, can you tell us about the Trump card?
Sure. So,
whose idea was that? And how did that come about?
John Paulson had a call with Donald Trump and was talking to Donald Trump and was kicking around the idea of we should sell, right? Why do we give away visas? We should sell them. And they're talking about it. Donald Trump calls me gets me on the phone, right? We all talk about it, right? And then we go from there. And then my job is to figure out, like I always figure out, how to do it. What's the path?
Do you have
Let's
a
go
path?
figure it out. Of course. About 2 weeks from today, it goes out. Okay? Elon's building me the software right now.
Yeah.
Right? And then out it goes. And by the way, yesterday I sold 1,000.
Oh, you did? I got a poly market I created on how many are you guys going to sell this year. So
Cool.
Yeah, curious to see how many.
That's fantastic. Do you want to tell people just the rough?
Yeah, what are the terms on
Okay.
it? Yeah.
So if you're a U.S. citizen, you pay global tax.
Yeah.
Okay? So you're not going to bring in outsiders who are going to come in to pay global tax. So if you have a green card, which used to be a green card, now gold card, you're a permanent resident of America. You can be a citizen, but you don't have to be. And none of them are going to choose to be. What they're going to do is they're going to have the right to be in America. They pay $5 million, and they have the right to be in America. They have the right to be in America.
Permanent residency. Yeah.
As long as they're good people.
And they're vetted.
And they can't break the law. We can always take it away if they're like evil or mean or bad or something. Not mean, but if they do something horrible, you can take it away. Right? But the idea is, if I was not American and I lived in any other country, I would buy 6. One for me, one for my wife and my 4 kids, because God forbid something happens. I want to be able to go to America, and I want to have the right to go to the airport, to go to America, and them to say, hello, Mr. Lutnick. Hello, Mr. Lutnick and the Lutnick family. Welcome home.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear I can't come here when there's a horrible war, a horrible whatever.
Right.
I want to be able to go home.
All right, so it's an insurance policy for people who have unbelievable amounts of wealth. That's not a terrible thing to go out there. If you want to take wealth from people that are outside the U.S. and they're profiting on U.S. markets and so on, yeah, that's not a terrible thing. Again, he said there are some conditions on there. This is obviously going to be contingent on good behavior. We already saw that you can pull green cards or gold cards. That can be done. So are they buying something? For sure. Is that the way of the world? Should we acknowledge the reality that money equals a lot of different privileges that other people don't have? I think it's not a terrible thing. It has to be judiciously applied, and it obviously has to be policed so we don't end up with people, again, from cartels or, Russian gangster oligarchs and so on and so forth. But this is also in contrast to what the left is trying to advertise, which they apparently want us to be remaining insolvent and to go out there and fund the world's problems. CBS saying the United States is about to revoke the legal status of more than 500,000 migrants. Again, that word migrants. Whenever they say it, I always think, are they really migrants? They're not supposed to be. The word migrant has a meaning. And it is not this thing. They're talking about people here that are under a program that was allowing Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelans who came into the United States. It gave them not migrant status. It gave them legal status here because they were supposedly being persecuted or prosecuted back in their home countries. I don't like anything about that. And of course, that's a status quo situation. You can look at it and go, well, the status quo has now changed, or America's priorities are changed. We can't have you in. Do you remember the whole story that happened just before the election? We were hearing about eating the dogs and eating the cats and eating the goldfish or the geese that were in the park in Ohio. Do you remember this? It's like this whole story broke out and people went like, what in the hell are these people doing here? How did they get here? Apparently, there were 532,000 migrants, aka people who came to this country, and they did actually have a legal way to do so. But migrant means you go back. So changing the status on that doesn't bother me even a little bit. Only our leftist media would sit out there and cry about this. And again, it's because apparently Donald Trump got in unfairly because he bought the internet, or his friends did. And that's how he's able to do this. They've actually weaponized the attention span of the American people. That's the position the left is going to take. It's not a winning one. It doesn't seem like it. If your top advocates are going to be a Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer sort of feebly trying to limp along, and AOC and Rosie O'Donnell, if that's the people that are out there that are making the argument on your behalf, I don't think you win. Here's the second piece of that, because the other thing is you're arguing that government workers can commit treason simply because they're out of work. Most government workers don't need to have that job. How do we know? Because I used to work there. It's one of the things that I do on this program. I feel like that's the value. I spent time working in government. If you've never done it, and probably only 1 in 100 of you actually have, a lot of you don't have any experience working for government specifically. The waste and the ridiculous nature of what government does is huge. They literally have a group of people that have self-identified and have been identified many times over every time we have a shutdown that are called non-essential. If you went to your job and found out that you were non-essential at the company you work for, wouldn't you look around and try to figure out if you could find somewhere to become essential? Wouldn't that be the number one thing for your job security? If you realize that your job is unnecessary, would you not want to say, how do I make myself integral to this company? People who are integral never worry about their jobs. People who have it's like why my buddies who are doing criminal investigations, they never worry because they're employable because of the skill set they have. But if your job exists for the sake of your job, which is many government positions, probably 8 out of 10 of them, if you were to hear our Commerce Secretary talk about it, if 8 out of 10 people only exist in that job for the sake of the job, not for the sake of the benefit of the people, again, you got to start asking some questions. How sustainable could that be? So here's the man who bought the internet. And this is a conversation again. This is Letnick talking about Elon Musk, who bought the internet and got Donald Trump elected. Apparently now they believe in election fraud, which is also kind of funny. We're seeing everything flipped on its head, except in like a dumb version of it. It's the dumb trust government version of it. You tell me a guy that has a house that doesn't care about material possessions is suddenly out there trying to con the government for more money when he has more money than like any person has ever had in the history of the world? It's a strange take.
Right? I'll see you in my house. So his house is 1,200 square feet. It's got the furniture in it that I had when I graduated from college.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
We know.
It's 1,200 square feet, and it's got the furniture, plastic chairs, and okay. So I say we're going to balance the budget. I need to cut $1 trillion. He's like, I'm in. Right? He says, I think we should cut 80% of the federal government because the essential employees, if the government shut down, essential employees are 450,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's 5.9 million people who work for the government.
Yeah.
How can 450,000 be essential and there's 5.9 million? So he says, like Twitter, I think we should cut 80%.
Yeah.
And I say, I know how to cut 50. And he says, I want to cut 80. I said, I know how to do 50. He goes, are you with me or against me? I go, I know how to legally do it. What do you have? And my son says it was like 2 alpha dogs just like fighting with each other for the first half hour. So then X comes in, right? And then he's got to walk his son X out. So he walks his son X out. And I'm thinking maybe the meeting's over, right? Because we've been together a half hour, 40 minutes, and maybe it's over. Because he got up and he walked out, he comes back and he sits down. He goes, Howard, this meeting is, right? That's what he says. He goes, this meeting is, and we sit down and we map out the plan.
So that's the guy that is evil, that the left is now crusading against. By the way, they were celebrating him not 15 minutes ago, talking about how he was going to change the world and he was going to bring electric cars everywhere and he was doing the revolution. He was going to save the planet from climate change and other BS. It's pretty wild. It's a pretty wild take to sit there in that space and be really upset about Elon Musk and make the argument that the guy who has more money than like he even knows what to do with and doesn't seem to care about it. People have talked about how he goes and sleeps on people's couches. He's like the least billionaire that you ever could find. If you go find Letnick's house, by the way, I saw one of his houses and it's palatial. It's a palatial mansion. That guy knows how to be wealthy. I'm not sure that Elon Musk even knows how to do wealthy. He just wanders around and has more money than anybody. And so he can do really interesting stuff and he doesn't seem to care about it. I'm fine with those kind of people out there. It doesn't mean that I agree with him. I'm not going to put him up on the pedestal. There's no idolization that will happen. But when the guy is doing things that are objectively good, which is to say we should get rid of 8 in 10 government workers, there's no question that that's the case. 50% is an opening bid. I absolutely love that their discussion was, here's what we want to do. Here's what I know I can legally do, which, by the way, is a real problem because Congress has crafted all these laws to protect federal workers, unless you're an FBI whistleblower, it turns out. But all these laws are set in place to keep these people doing the thing that they're doing. They want to maintain their jobs. And so how do you find it? You put brilliant people who have learned how to make a ton of money that are not necessarily even interested in worrying about it, that they couldn't spend all their money if they wanted to. Let those people solve that problem. I don't hate it. Again, it's the same thing about the gold card. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. I'll tell you what I do hate. I do hate propaganda and lies. And that's where we're going here because we saw an exposure of this influence game where people have basically built up a following by being someone and they are using that idolatry, that thing that says, I always agree with what this person says. It doesn't matter if it's Elon Musk. It doesn't matter if it's Letnick. It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump. It turns out it could be people like the libs of TikTok. It could be folks that you find on Twitter that generally, it could be a Laura Loomer. It could be a James O'Keefe. We've experienced that here. We're currently experiencing it right now because I'm seeing that we are getting crushed by numbers over on Rumble that didn't happen. So suddenly we just had a big drop. I'm sure it has nothing to do, like the fact that we've consistently had the same number of people that pop up every single Monday for what, a year and a half now? They suddenly just all disappeared when Rumble decided to change their lineup. Not awesome. Not awesome on Rumble's part. I'll just say that. But when you start idolizing people, you start thinking they can do no wrong, and that is the exact opposite. That is how you end up in a situation where bad things will happen to you. And we're going to talk about when you start spending money or you start lying to the public. At some point, the public will actually find out. And when they do, they're going to feel that thing that many people always feel, which is called betrayal. Betrayal is when you gave trust in the same way that many people who worked in a job will trust something, right? And they will take that trust, they will abuse it, they will weaponize it against you, and then they will take from you in a way that is not deserving of the original trust. And we're going to talk about the Pepsi / Coca-Cola / Big Soda influence game, which got played on, and that was really interesting. And I'm also going to tell you something about the FBI's top 10. There was a breaking headline and a big interview that was done with Trey Gowdy and Kash Patel, the FBI director, talking about how they went out there and rounded up all these top 10 bad guys, that they let the FBI off the leash, and the new FBI is back in town, and they got 3 of the top 10 most wanted felons and fugitives, right? Have you guys heard this? Because I'm going to debunk it for you, and I don't like it. I don't like being right, as I said. Before we do, how about another paid advertisement by my friends over at Patriot Coolers? Yes, I'm telling you it's paid because this is what happens. We're transparent. They pay me to tell you guys about this. The upside is I've been using these since long before that I ever considered that. I used these when I was on FBI duty, when I was working in 2017. October was my first order of 2017, when I was working on a surveillance team. No, it was before I went to the surveillance team. I certainly carried it with me nearly every single day. PatriotCoolers.com is the website that you go to. I actually bought mine through Amazon. You can still do that too, but you can't use my promo code. So if you want to save some money, go to PatriotCoolers.com, the promo code KYLE. That's how you get 10% off. That's the value proposition, and it lets them know that we sent you. It's the same deal, by the way, totally transparently. You could get that by being a military veteran. You don't have to just be a listener to our show. But if you want us to get credit for it, because we're telling you about it, I can assure you, you won't buy one and be like, oh, I really got screwed. It's a fantastic product. I think I've actually emptied most of the coffee out of this, but the thing I love, they're thoughtful. They have 13 bars on here, the same as our American flag. There are 50 stars on the bottom that are etched in. There's all these little thoughtful touches. The packaging is nice. It's a good company that's out of Texas, and they want to support us, and they came to us when we had like maybe 2,000 total listeners tops across all the platforms. They've been loyal to us. I'm loyal to them. They get the best deal of any of our sponsors. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code KYLE. Check them out if you're in the market. Don't spend money you don't need to, though. I won't ask you to do that either. If you're in the market, you're looking for a gift, you're like, hey, how do I help somebody out? That's where you go do it. And you can always support our program by backing them up. Are you guys ready for the top 10? And this is also playing into this ex-influencer nonsense because almost no coverage in the media on this. Here's my absolute favorite. This is FBI Barbie. If you guys watch Fox News, probably many of you do not, but if you did, you'd catch FBI Barbie. They love to trot out FBI Barbie. She's a decidedly non-serious person. FBI Barbie's real name is Nicole Parker. She worked in the Miami field office of late. She quit because her friend was killed on the job. And that's a terrible thing, and there's nothing good about anything that happened there. But to act like she quit the job, not because she couldn't handle doing the job anymore and the possibility that someone around her could die, which is a real thing, and it's not something I want for anybody. But men and women are built differently, and she did not handle that properly. And so she walked out. Then she turned around and said, how do I monetize this? How do I use this moment of personal crisis where I no longer can do the job and turn it into a career? And she's gotten on Fox doing this. And she's not an honest operator. She's operating in the intel, operation space on accident. I don't even think she's smart enough to know that. I know people that work with this girl. Okay. Her husband is very wealthy. He's a multimillionaire. He was in hedge funds. She was working supposedly on Wall Street and then suddenly decided that after 9/11, she needed to go serve our country. When was 9/11, folks? What year was that? 2001. Okay, that was in 2001. So she joined the FBI in 2010. Why the 9-year gap, you ask? I don't know. Regular investigators ask these questions. The reason I'm pointing this out is because she's the face that pops up when you go Google 3 most wanted fugitives arrest. Now, when you guys think about the most wanted fugitives in this country, you think about something called the top 10 most wanted, right? I'm going to give you some inside baseball about what the top 10 most wanted fugitive list is. And here's the thing. I didn't know that this was going to be the case when this story broke. I listened to it. I heard Kash Patel talk about it. I'll even play it for you right now. We'll play the first little take on Trey Gowdy. The story goes like this. The FBI top 10 most wanted started off probably as a list of people that you put up like you'd have wanted posters anywhere else. This is a pre-internet society. But then it became a tool for propaganda. Because what you do is when you find that you've got a relatively high profile bad guy and you know that you're getting close on a long-term investigation to finding them, you put that person on the top 10 most wanted lists. And then you go through the rigmarole of getting, let's say, an extradition warrant from overseas. You go out there, it's called a pause. Maybe you go out there and you get together your task force and you're getting the probable cause together. You go in front of a judge and you're working through the details of the search warrant. When you get out there and you figure out that you're going to get this person, you first want to elevate that person to the top 10. Because when they're in the top 10 and you grab them, it's very exciting. So the key to look at when we talk about the top 10 most wanted fugitives that are being arrested is when were they put on that top 10 list? And this is going to play very clearly into the soda influencer things. They're not playing with a level deck with you. And I'm going to help you look right through this. This is probably the biggest reveal of the day that goes on today's show. So clip this little segment. Okay, here's Kash Patel talking about jumping on the job and what the role of the FBI is. He's mouthing all the platitudes. He's not necessarily wrong. But then he goes out and says something about letting good cops be cops, and I'm going to show you what the info op looks like.
You've been on the job for about a month now, so tell us what you've seen and what you've learned.
Well, Trey, it's great to be with you, and I wanted to stay radio silent for the first month, just to laser focus on restoring law enforcement and the credibility and the trust of the American people and getting the weaponization out of there. And in order to do that, you need a strong Department of Justice, and we have a courageous leader in Attorney General Pam Bondi and her team over there. And we have to remind the folks in the American public that the FBI reports to the Department of Justice, and the FBI does not make prosecutorial decisions. We investigate based on lawful predications anywhere the facts lead us, and we work with our partners at DOJ. So that collaboration has been absolutely brilliant to set the new foundation.
All that sounds like propaganda to me. Now I want to know, what are you doing with our tax dollars? What are you doing with this time? You've been in here. We want to see action. What do we want to see? We want to see people arrested. We want to see bad guys snapped up. We want to see a change in the culture, which says you're going to focus on law enforcement. And unfortunately, that's not what this top 10 arrest is. This top 10 arrest situation is all spin. I'm going to break it out in 1 second.
Consequential mission of the FBI is to safeguard our citizenry and our way of life and to investigate those that do harm to our citizenry. But right now, the major portion of that focus is on sex trafficking, is on fentanyl and heroin overdoses, and is on violent crime in the form of gang murders and homicides and rapes. Every 7 minutes in this country, Trey, a individual American citizen overdoses on a drug, a narcotic.
All right. So if you're going to tell me that the FBI is going to stop people from dying from drugs, you better have a pretty serious plan. And the fact of the matter is a lot of these things are, I guess they're federal crimes in so much as like the actual substance is outlawed under federal law. But that does not mean that it is a thing that the FBI is going to waste its time on. The FBI should exist for one thing and one thing only: complex criminal investigations that span state to state or cross international borders. And it can be only accomplished through an entity that has the resources of the FBI, not something that can be handled by local law enforcement. Unless we are going to simply be a group of FBI agents that are going to just back local law enforcement. But the FBI agents are not cops. There's a reason why they're not called police officers. They're not federal officers. They're known as criminal investigators. And that's what they should be doing. Again, there's a propaganda play here. Here's the last little piece, because I noticed that he hit this well and hard. Kash goes out and says they caught the 3 of the 10 most wanted fugitives on the list. That sounds like a huge thing. I'm going to show you why it's not in 2 seconds here. Let me just get him to say it in his own words.
I really appreciate this. This shows what the men and women of the FBI can do when they have leadership who are in lockstep with the national security mission of safeguarding our citizens. Just in the last 3 weeks, Trey, the FBI has arrested and brought to justice, thanks to the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, 3 top 10 of the FBI's most wanted. Let me just say that again. Not 1, not 2, but 3 of the FBI's most wanted top 10 are now in custody because of our relationships with folks like Director Ratcliffe and Secretary Hegseth and Rubio, and the list goes on.
Okay, Francisco Javier Roman Bardeles, captured 3/18/25. Bardeles is 47, an alleged MS-13 senior leader at 47. That's pretty senior for MS-13. If you guys have ever worked, those guys are almost all in their teens. Accused of racketeering conspiracy that would provide material support and resources to terrorism, narco-terrorism conspiracy, alien smuggling conspiracy, a whole bunch of stuff. You guys want to know the crazy part about this? You go, okay, well, that's good. And it is. It's good. I'm glad they got him. Here's the problem. High-ranking MS-13 leader arraigned on Long Island federal court. Terrorism and racketeering. Are you ready? What does it say on this guy? You just read on their press release. It said that he was elevated onto that top 10 list in February. That seems like a problem. Defendant, who was added to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitive lists in February, was then captured in March. That's the game. The game is they knew that they were close to a deal. They knew that they were ready to go ahead and lock this guy up. This was going to involve some international cooperation. He was in Mexico. He was an El Salvadorian citizen, so he didn't have status. So they worked out a deal. They put him on the top 10 list, and then they knocked him off it by taking him down. Here's another guy. This is Nicole Parker saying, it shows me that Kash Patel is serious. Does it, though? Does she know anything about this list? Has she ever been part of a capture of one of these things? Because I have. We did it in Arlington, Virginia, when I was like my second year on the job. Captured, FBI 10 most wanted fugitive from St. Louis metro area. How was that person captured, you wonder? Was it because of the brilliant investigative work of the FBI? No. On the morning of January 25th, the Lady Lake Police Department arrested this guy. His name is Donald Eugene Fields on a routine traffic stop. His license plate was not registered. So once again, local police for the win. That has nothing to do with the FBI. It's just the fact that they had a warrant out for him, probably a UFAP warrant, which is an unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. So then you got that. And then you've got another one, a guy named Justin Smith, who was actually identified. He's not on the top 10 list, so maybe that was a misspeaking, but he was on the most wanted list, which is another general list, again, a propaganda tool. And he was identified by Atlanta PD, and then he was detained. So he was actually found. He had shot a girlfriend in Philadelphia. Sounds like a terrible dude. Someone who should definitely be wrapped up. But found by Atlanta PD and had nothing to do with the FBI other than the FBI put the person on the list. This is what propaganda operations look like. We're going to tell you something that sounds really good. And as long as you don't scratch into the surface of it, then you're never going to understand exactly what happened. Or we're going to elevate somebody to make it look like they're a big deal. Then we're going to arrest them and we're going to congratulate ourselves on doing the job. Do you guys see why this is exactly the same thing as the terrorist playbook that we said? Where they would say, look, there's an awful lot of white supremacists out there. Then they go find some dudes who have some white supremacist things, get them to say white supremacist stuff, then set them up with weapons and then arrest them for white supremacy and all kinds of danger. Do you guys see how that works? The FBI is a propaganda machine in many ways. It is very good at self-congratulating. My buddies and I like to call it the Mutual Admiration Society sometimes. Former FBI agents, current FBI agents, Nicole Parker types, they all are going to do the same thing. They are going to defend the reputation of the FBI because that is the thing that their reputation depends on. And then there's guys like me, and I don't care. I just care about what's true. I care about what's accurate. I care about trying to find these things. It's fairly interesting when you go and expose them because all you do is you end up hurting the feelings of those that are doing the thing that's sort of dishonest, if not totally dishonest, and they're mad at you. I didn't do it, folks. I didn't do this either. Sugary soda industry has a covert influencer campaign that falls apart. Here's the thing. This is all the same kind of stuff. It doesn't matter whether it's coming from your federal government or it's coming from a large group of people that are selling a nasty product that doesn't do anything good for you. Does everybody enjoy having a cola on occasion? Yeah, they do. I do. I'll have a root beer every once in a while, right? I'll have a Coca-Cola. I had friends who would always order that. He'd say, I'd like a Coca-Cola plastic, please. He would say it exactly that way. Maybe you go through the drive-through line, you want a Sprite because you're eating Popeyes. So what? You can make that decision. The thing that was going on, the reason why this thing happened over the weekend, which is very interesting to me, was there was this big push to talk about changing the nutritional guidelines that allow SNAP, which is a supplemental nutrition benefits program that the U.S. Health and Human Services administers. It's supposed to be for nutritional things. And they said, look, we really don't want people to be buying sodas with this, which of course means that the soda manufacturers are looking at a massive market of people that are spending government dollars on their product, and they don't want that. So they went out and paid people that you trust who decided to take money like 50 or $100 a tweet, and were out there running across social media making things saying, this is an outrage. This is a reach of government that is stepping into personal autonomy. And the fact of the matter is real simple. If you are accepting help, it is very rare that help does not come with strings, right? My father used to run the St. Vincent de Paul Society in the little town that he was in Florida. And the fact of the matter is they never wanted to give anybody money. Why don't we just give money? Because money means that people can do whatever they want. And you don't get autonomy with someone else's money. You're not going to spend it properly because there are supposed to be some things that are done. We don't want you to receive money forever. The public dole is not a good thing. The goal is to get you off that and maybe help you make some good decisions. If you are in a position where you have to receive public housing benefits, I have significant empathy as my family was very recently homeless and had to rely on the charity of my family, right? My wife and my kids and I had to go stay with my parents in our 40s because I lost that government job and I didn't want to sell secrets. If you have to take benefits from the public, it is perfectly reasonable for the public to have some demands on you. In the same way that when I had a security clearance, one of the things they did, they said, look, we trust you and we're going to give you access to all this information, but we're also going to check up on you. In order to have access to this information, you must make financial disclosures so that we know you're not selling out secrets. And you go, okay, well, that's just what this job is. Every year I had to go list all my assets, all my incomes, every single thing in my bank account, all of my debts. This is what you do when you have a security clearance. It's not that much fun. It's not enjoyable. You just do it because that's what's asked of you. There are some strings that come along with that information and that knowledge, right? In the same way, when I was in the military, I had a public benefit. I was getting paid by the public. Not very much money, by the way, but we got paid anyway. I served in the military and you have barracks. Do you want to live in the barracks? Probably not. But maybe you're 18 and you're 19. It actually is a pretty good deal. They give you room and board. The change is that they check in on you. They make sure that you're physically fit, which means you're eating enough to actually maintain your fitness. They measure your waist every year to make sure that you're not too fat to fit in your uniform. They check in on your room and they do white glove inspections and they drop you on your face and make you do push-ups or yard duty over the weekend if you're not maintaining the property that is not yours. So you have no right to tell people what the public benefit that you're receiving. There's just conditions. You sign up for SNAP, you sign up for Section 8 housing. It should come along with a little bit of scrutiny. The public should know they're getting something for it. And this is the big difference between what people on the conservative side say and what people on the left say. People on the left end up in this really fatal, dangerous, empathetic position, which is that all people should be treated with all unlimited dignity, even when they need some help learning what dignity is. There's nothing dignified about taking money from somebody else. Anybody who's been in that position knows it feels terrible. It can also feel like an incredible blessing, like that people care enough to actually help you out. But it also should make you not want to be in that position and to actually get yourself into a position to do it for others. One of the first things that we did when we got on our feet after what happened with the Bureau is we turned around and said, who can we help to? As my buddy Garrett O'Boyle says, how can we turn around and bless others with the blessings that we've been received? And so you go and you do those things. If you are a recipient of public housing, your goal should be to get off it and then turn around and offer that assistance somewhere else through your own private charity. This AstroTurf thing, people were getting paid to represent a large soda manufacturer, the exact opposite of what the Make America Healthy movement says. The things that they were mouthing platitudes on under the false guise of this independence, liberty-minded idea, knowing that some people will fall for it. Knowing that some people will say, I stand with fill in the blank person because I have idolized that person and I have elevated their opinion to the point where they can no longer be questioned. We're all open to being questioned. Our motive should be questioned. It is the reason why I said all the advertisements today are paid sponsorships. They are. What you also have to realize is that I turn away sponsorships that are not going to be within my value set. I don't take a Coca-Cola sponsorship. It won't happen. It's not going to happen. Even though I occasionally drink Coke, I don't highly recommend it to anybody. It's just a thing that sometimes I do. In the same way that sometimes I want to eat nachos or I'll eat popcorn at a movie theater. Do I think you should be doing that all the time? No. I shouldn't take a sponsorship for that because I don't think it's the best value. These people that took this money, they went out there and they just said, I have an audience and I can monetize this audience. It's the same reason why you see people pushing gold IRAs. They don't care where the money comes from, and they've decided to idolize something else. They're being idolized by the American public or by people in the public, and then they have idolized something else, which is far more dangerous. It's gold. Gold being treasure, paychecks. And as we talked about in the exact first story today, it does pay. Being in this world and being of this world, it pays. But it is not a good thing to aspire to. Because otherwise, some of you guys would go out there and work for Planned Parenthood and try to be a CEO. They have a lot of different regional clinics you could be the CEO of and make $300,000, $400,000 a year. You just have to be complicit in baby murder. You see how that could be a problem? People here follow this program, I think, because you understand that there are values that I'm not willing to compromise on. It doesn't matter who it is. And I will continue to do that thing, and I will continue to be transparent and honest. And if you guys ask a question about who's paying what, I'll let you know. That's just how we do it here. Go out there and be skeptics. Go out there and be distrustful of the evil things, because there are plenty of things that are bad. We have to be careful. We have to be the curator of our own information. And that's why this stuff happened during the COVID crisis, where people went after us and said, hey, stop doing your own research. Why can't you just take the spoon feeding that the media has given us? That time is gone. It's the reason why, as you just mentioned in the chat, folks, we say there's no time for comforting lies here. We don't believe in that. Here's a little montage of do your own research or don't, because they didn't want you to, and we're going to sign off for the day. Enjoy this little sort of media compilation of folks who were upset that you were compromising what we always hear called the grift, but is more accurately referred to as propaganda.
Clowns. Idiots who think that they can do their own research.
Don't do any of your own research.
Doing your own research is associated with conspiracy theory circles.
This go-it-alone approach, doing your own research, that can have serious consequences.
You should get prison time for even questioning the vaccines.
Can we all stop saying, I need to do my own research?
That phrase, do your own research, is 4 words. 4 little words that are hurting America.
Doing your own research hurts America!
Everybody has a supercomputer in their hand that empowers them to do their own research, and that's the problem.
You must not do your own research.
I need to do my own research.
I don't understand what that means. I'm doing my own research.
You can't do your own research unless you're a scientist.
Do your own research.
Maybe you've told yourself you're playing it safe. You just want to wait and see since this is a new vaccine. No.
Roll the up and get the vaccine.
Unvaccinated people spread the virus.
Get the vaccine, you dope.
Don't be a get yourself vaccinated. That's just all there is to it.
There's no excuse.
No excuse for being unvaccinated.
There's no rational and no emotional argument that adds up against getting your damn shot. There just isn't.
We want to make sure that people can discern the truth from the misinformation. And we want to make sure that everyone understands that no one's safe till everyone's safe.
No one is safe.
No one is safe.
No one is safe. No one is safe.
No one is safe.
Nobody's safe.
No one is safe.
Nobody is safe.
This is a post 9/11 axiom. Safer, but not yet safe.
No one is safe. No one is safe. No one is safe. No one is safe.
Get it? Folks, follow us over on Rumble. It's KyleSeraphin.com as well. If you want to get all the articles, you can follow us at Kyle Seraphin on X. You can find us on Locals and so on. This is the easy stuff. It's all in the show description. And if you want to get this after the fact, get it on Spotify. You'll be able to do it without any pop-up ads. You can share it. The download of the app for Spotify is free. We're free over there as well, other than the 3 ads that you guys hear me read. And that is it for us today. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a great start to your week. I hope you go out there and are a skeptic about all things, especially the people that you want to believe. Again, when someone tells you something you want to believe, try to argue against it. Steel man your own arguments. It'll make you a happier person and you won't feel deceived. You won't be upset about it. God bless you. See you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.